edition of Finding Your Frequency. I'm Brian Sexton, excited to introduce you today to Jessica Otto from Florida Kids. Hey, Jessica, how are you?
Hi, Brian. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having me on.
Tell me about Florida Kids.
So Florida Kids is a therapy provider for schools in Northeast Florida. We love what we get to do in getting to provide services for speech, occupational, and physical therapy for kids who have individualized education plans. So we work directly with the schools to then provide them a therapist to come on site and meet their needs for therapy.
How long have you done this?
So with the schools, I've done it since 2012. I owned a private practice starting in 2010, and this grew out of that. And then I sold the private practice last year and kept this business. And this business continues to grow. It's been amazing.
How did that need identify itself to you? Where did you see it?
So we actually got sought out to provide therapists into the schools.
Okay.
Actually, I was telling someone this week in an interview, a school came to us and said, we need someone on site. And at the time, families came to us and got in-person therapy.
That was the business that you closed.
That was the one that I sold last year. And doing that, we actually had a school approach us and say, send us a therapist on site to provide services for students with IEPs.
Okay.
And it was that moment of I don't know how we would do that. Okay, well, we have a therapist, and it was 10 hours a week. As of the end of last school year, I think we were providing about 600 hours a week.
Wow.
So just seeing that growth, you just have to stop and be thankful to be here.
Where do you see the most need? Of all the areas that you send therapists out to work, what do you see the most?
There is such a need across the whole county, and there is a critical shortage of speech-language pathologists in general. And so I know counties that have so many openings, so kids aren't being served because we can't find the therapists.
So are you recruiting and encouraging young people to investigate?
Yes.
And what's that process look like? What kind of education are you talking about?
So in order to enter the field, you actually can enter now with a bachelor's, which you've always been able to enter with a bachelor's, but it hasn't been well known. And ASHA, which is our national organization, is starting to allow that to be a full career so that you can always, as an assistant, work under a CCC SLP, which is what it's called. Lots of words for a speech pathologist.
Right.
You have to have your certificate of clinical competency, and then you can actually work with your Cs. You can work independently, but as an assistant, you can just work under them. And schools are an amazing place to work as an assistant with just a bachelor's.
Well, and you see schools, and my kids are all the way through, but you see that schools have limited resources with constricting budgets. It would seem like this outside contractor model for specialized services like yours would be a growth area. A place where a young person can jump in and not just build a career, but build a business.
Absolutely.
That's what you did, right?
Yes, that's what we've done.
And do you see your business in particular growing beyond Duval County? Or are you in St. John's and Clay? Or are you looking towards Central Florida? Or...
Yes, so currently we're in Nassau, Duval, St. John's, and Clay. And I would love to grow beyond that, but not at the sacrifice of supporting our therapists well. Okay. So it's a really big deal to me because so often in a school, the SLP is the only one or the OT is the only one. And so we work within our team to create a network within the team where we will support each other. I actually employ a supervising therapist that it's her job just to support therapists in the field. And that to me is super, super important. And so I would say it's important to pay therapists well. It's important to manage their caseloads, but providing them the support they need is a really, really big deal. Right. And sometimes therapists may get paid $1 or $2 less than they would in another company because we're paying a whole other therapist to be available to answer their questions and to help them when you're oh my gosh, this parent is so angry. This happened and I don't know how to navigate it. There's someone they can call all the time.
Right. You've obviously learned on the fly all the years you have done this. What's the biggest challenge that you've faced in building a successful business?
So our biggest challenge is finding therapists. That's always been our biggest challenge. And because it's so important to me that it's the right therapist. So finding the right therapist to me is the biggest challenge. But when you find that right therapist, they get into the right school, they're with the right team, it's phenomenal.
And it creates this synergy.
Yes.
Where you get where you need to be and where you get the families where they need to be.
And the students make so much more progress when they're matched with the therapist who loves what they do. They grow by leaps and bounds.
All right, time for a couple of hard-hitting questions. You ready? All right,
ready.
For Find Your Frequency. Everybody has a defining moment in life. Most of us have more than one. Share with us one of yours.
So I think one of my, like, as a professional and a mom and an adult, my biggest defining moment was realizing what my children needed, and taking a step back from my professional career in order to be able to be more present for my kids. I work with kids all the time and I love what I do. I love seeing kids grow, but not being able to be present for my own kids hit me a couple years ago. And it was like one of the moments. I think my oldest had just finished preschool and I realized I hadn't picked him up from preschool a single day. And it was that moment of like, this is not what I want. I love what I do. I enjoy working. I enjoy all of that, but I want to also be able to pick him up.
And that moment probably helped you refine your business to a model that works for you and your therapists.
It did.
Yeah.
And it definitely has helped drive all of those choices. And so I sold the other business because of that, and kept this business knowing like this one, I have summers off and it's wonderful.
People who are successful building a business as you have been overcome a number of obstacles. Can you share one that you think helps define you?
It's a good question. Thinking of an obstacle, I know challenges and obstacles.
One where you had to bust through.
I know they're probably the biggest is navigating the disappointments.
Okay.
And that, whether it's a therapist that we love leaving, like that's a big one. Another one is not getting a bid that we go for. And those, like you have a day, you're like, I just want to take a nap and just recover from not getting this where I thought we would grow or I thought it would look like that. So I would say the disappointments on a grand scale, but then some specific, like having amazing therapists leave, and usually they'll leave in a group. Like it just happens that way. And those are some of the biggest obstacles. And I work in a field of women and maternity leaves and life changes, which are all amazing. But as a business owner, you're like, but it's so hard because I love you and now you have to go.
I need you.
So, yeah.
And you don't find your frequency in life without learning something that you can share with a young therapist, with a young businesswoman, with a young person that's looking to do what you've done, which is go and carve their own path in life. Have you got a piece you can share with our audience?
Yes, I think that being true to yourself from the very beginning is the most helpful thing that I can share, is to start early and to not deviate from that path of creating space for life and fun things, as well as enjoying that professional side. I think looking at my own story and saying like, I was so focused on work and I missed a lot of the fun things. And I would say, don't miss those. Yeah. Like, enjoy your work, love what you do, but make sure you carve out time for amazing vacations, for special time out, for time for yourself. Even if that's being super active, go enjoy and do that.
Great advice. Jessica, thanks so much for coming down, and continued success.
Thank you so much
for joining us here today on Finding Your Frequency. And we'll see you next time right here on the Daily News Network.